Hi, I'm Bill Sputnik Spooner, and I play guitar and own a dog.
Hi there, I'm Mike Forts, and welcome back to Parlour to Parlour. If you're an aspiring or even an amateur musician living in the Bay Area, then odds are pretty high that you've had some experience with the Blue Bear School of Music. It's an awesome nonprofit school employing professional musicians as instructors, one of whom happens to be Bill Spooner, songwriter, guitarist, singer, and co-founder of the legendary San Francisco band The Tubes. As an occasional Blue Bear student myself, I've actually had quite a few experiences with Spooner, so I took the opportunity to catch up with him on some of his more recent activities since quitting The Tubes 20 years ago, including his work with the late oral historian and anti-racism activist Lanny Silver, as well as a new project that he's working on with his son, Boone.
Well, she wrote one that was about Chino Sugahara, I think his name was, and his wife, and they were known as the Japanese Schindler because he saved a bunch of Jewish families from concentration camps in World War II by getting them visas to go to Japan. And it was strictly against the orders from his, he was worked for the consulate, right, the Japanese consulate, but he did it anyways. That was the first one she wrote. And then she's written, she started one about the women of Juarez. There's been a series, like of 200 women that have been found dead in Juarez in the past 20 or 30 years. And so they think it's one guy or group of guys that have been killing all these, killing, a lot of them are prostitutes and stuff, but you know, whatever, they're just murdering all these women, you know. And that was called The Women of Juarez, and that's another one she started. But she didn't finish that one either. So that one, then she wrote a bluegrass rock opera thing. So she was nothing if not prolific, you know. It was really a lot of fun working with her. You know, she wasn't the greatest writer in the world, but she had so many ideas. It really made up for it, you know. She was just never without some inspiration. So it was kind of inspiring to me too, because I wrote songs for years and years and years, and then I kind of dried up for a long time. And then I told you, I started this new album with Boone, and we've been writing we've got about 15 songs started. He's a recording engineer and a musician and a songwriter in his own. It's kind of autobiographical, but it's kind of more about my family. You know, kind of trying to write about the people I've known in my life. I just would like to leave them something, my impression of growing up with them and stuff.
Of course, we can't talk to Spooner without getting into a little bit of Tubes history. So here he tells us about his experiences with major labels, famed producer David Foster, and why he ultimately quit the Tubes.
Yeah, I've been with I've actually been with 3 major labels. One of them the first one was when I was like about 18, and that was called Cotillion. We did 2 albums with them, one with this group called Mike Condello, and the other one was my album called, they ended up calling it some weird name. They made up a fictitious name. Neither one of them did well. And then that all fell apart. And then I left that band and met up with Rick Anderson and Vince Welnick. And we went back to Arizona and found a drummer named Bob McIntosh. He was just an awesome young drummer. He was about 4 or 5 years younger than us, but just a kick-ass drummer, this kid. And formed the Beans. And we changed our name to the Tubes because a band from Boston became the Boston Baked Beans or something like that. And we thought, our managers thought it was too close to the Beans, so we changed our name to the Tubes. And we made videotapes, which no one had been doing at that time at all. But we had to do that because we were a visual band. Our whole thing was based on this kind of a comedy sketch that ran throughout our show, you know. We'd made countless tapes before this, just audio tapes, and sent them, and they just sent them back with a lot of head scratching. What the hell does this mean? What is this? I wouldn't understand this at all. You know? Didn't make any sense without a picture, you know. So then we sent them a video of the band, and all of a sudden we became like the darlings of L.A. and we had all these different labels, kind of a bidding war for us, you know, which we thought was really, really cool. But when later on we realized they're all in collusion, you know. There's no such thing as a bidding war in Hollywood. It's just, well, how much are you going to offer them? Well, we'll offer them this much more. Who wants them? Do you really want them? Well, if you really want them, then you offer them this, and we'll offer, you know. They're all in collusion with each other, you know. We didn't realize it till later, but anyhow, we wound up with A&M Records. So we did our first 5 albums with them. Then we switched to Capitol after that. We got a new manager named this guy named Ricky Farr, and we switched to Capitol, the label Capitol. And that was, they paid us a bunch of money to switch, so we thought that was a really good deal. But it turns out Capitol really didn't understand us as much as A&M did, you know. And they insisted on getting David Foster to produce our albums, who was, what we used to call him was Bambi, you know, because he was just like he was a real easy listening kind of a guy, you know. He really didn't know anything about rock and roll, or very little anyways. And whatever, you know, we had to like kind of hold his hand during the scary parts, you know, because he was just really, you know, I didn't understand what we were doing at all. And but anyhow, but it worked out in the long run, I guess. We had a couple of hits with him, but unfortunately we kind of lost touch with our base audience, you know, the ones that followed us through thick and thin, the A&M fans, you know. And then Capitol dropped us, and we were out on the road, and that was during the earthquake in 1989. And that's when I couldn't take it anymore. That's when I decided I couldn't tour anymore, because there was just no reason to tour. If you don't have a product out, there's just no reason to be out there. You know, you're just making a living. You could do that at home. You know, I'm not going to just tour. Some bands just tour forever, and they don't have. It's just kind of like a golden hits of their you know, their youth. It's golden oldies more or less, right? They're kind of like a tribute show. And I didn't want to do that anymore, so I went home. I quit and went home, and I've been happy ever since. Now that I'm on the good foot, as they say. Yes. Yeah.
In addition to his work at Blue Bear as an instructor, Bill also runs his own recording studio, the Digital Basement, out of his home in Vallejo, California, which is where we shot this footage. Let's take a peek inside as Bill shows us some of his memorabilia and some equipment. This is your gold record for the completion backwards principle.
Mm-hmm.
Which that was your first Capitol album.
Right. And this one's outside, inside. It's the second Capitol album. Then this is interesting over here. This is a Hall of Fame from the Arizona Entertainment Hall of Fame or something.
September 23rd, 2007.
Whoop-de-doo. Which is the last time I actually played with the Tubes. So we actually all got together and played together. That's an ad I did over there with for Peavey back in the day there, you know. We did some other ads, but I just remember that one. That was a lot of fun doing that one there.
That says "Smokin' Rock and Roll with Peavey Sound Gear."
And that's Prairie, our drummer, playing guitar over here. The other people weren't around, so Prairie became a guitar player that day. We got a lot more memorabilia, but I don't know where it all is. Most of it's put away. I don't try and dwell on it too much. The old days. Some rack of some bunch of junk, yeah. Bunch of echoes and a bunch of synthesizers down the bottom there, and all your junk. Your junk. These are some of the mini bands that are recorded here. Here's an album about Osama bin Laden. That's one I did with Lanny there. Another one of her projects. There's a bunch of stuff about Osama bin Laden. And here's this is another Lanny album too. A Hero Walks Among Us. She made that cover herself. After that I wouldn't let her make covers anymore. You can see why. And just various groups. And this is some patents. So these are all guitars I've owned in the past. So Anna got me that for my birthday once. The official patents of the original ones of those guitars. Modern and a Flying V and a, what do we call it? I call it a pork sword, but there's another name for it. An Explorer. That's the original name for it. That's the Gibson name for it, Explorer. Cool. Anyhow, this is a little studio we built, and it works real good.
And if you're a local who would like to try out Bill's studio, he does offer songwriting consultation, will sing your demos if you're not a singer yourself, can provide live drum tracks and a mixdown in Pro Tools. Check out billspooner.com for more details, and also check out the acoustic performance he gave us of the old Tubes song, Strung Out on Strings. Thanks for hanging with us, and I'll see you next week when we head out to New England, New Hampshire specifically, to visit another band that loves to perfect their songs in their own custom-built studio. Enjoy!